SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, this season has turned into a straight-up test of patience. The offensive line is limping in, a key piece on offense is still pushing his body to the limit, and young players are being thrown straight into the fire. A veteran is facing a brutal decision. The front office has tied itself in knots over a trade, and there is one stat out there that shows what almost nobody is seeing. For anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football and wears that purple and gold, the way this story might end is going to hit hard. But before we dive into all of that, let me talk to you real quick. If you just found this channel, hit that subscribe button. It is free, and it helps this work from a true fan in the stands a ton. Smash the like button because that pushes the video out to more people rocking purple and gold. And treat the comment section like the bleachers because what you think really matters here. This offensive line situation heading into the matchup with Washington is the kind of thing that keeps anyone who truly lives Vikings football up at night. All week we are staring at the injury report, and when crunch time hits you see your star left tackle and your rookie guard both slapped with the questionable label. Donovan Jackson's situation hits hard. He is a high draft pick, brought in to be a cornerstone in the interior, and ever since that ugly ankle tweak in Green Bay, it feels like he is always pushing through pain. He already missed the game against Seattle, he has been limited in practice, and now we roll into the weekend with no guarantees. If he cannot go, Blake Brandel steps in. He is a hard worker, but it is just not the same level. On the other side, Christian Darrisaw's case is different, but it does not exactly calm anybody down. The staff said he would have a normal week, that everything was on track, and then the final report drops, and there he is listed as a question mark again. This knee maintenance story is turning into a full-on saga. One day, he is a full participant, the next day they are managing his reps, and we are sitting here doing the math in our heads on how many snaps his body can handle. If they have to roll with Justin SKOL protecting the blind side, that nervous feeling in your stomach cranks up fast, and there are more injuries swirling around. Safety Theo Jackson and defensive tackle Levi Drake Rodriguez are already ruled out with neck issues, and that shakes up the defensive rotation and special teams. It is not the kind of thing that makes a giant headline, but it is exactly the detail that shows up when the game hits the fourth quarter and everyone is gassed. Then comes the part that really weighs on Sunday. JJ McCarthy is already in a turbulent rookie season, taking hits and trying to find himself, and now he might be playing behind a wall that is not at full strength. To be honest with you, I am terrified of seeing another game where the kid spends 4 quarters running for his life instead of actually growing this offense. A young quarterback needs a solid base, not hit after hit after hit. There is also the wrinkle of Ty Chandler coming back from that knee injury. He is listed as questionable, he practiced well, but he still needs to be activated. Getting him back as a runner and returner would be a huge breath of fresh air, because without a healthy line and without a real ground threat, Washington's defense is going to blitz like crazy from everywhere, even from the seats. On the other side, Jaden Daniels is back and ready to test Brian Flores' defense, and the possible absence of Bobby Wagner only tilts the scales a little. Deep down, the feeling among the Purple Faithful is that mix of hope and dread about watching yet another chapter of this offense getting beaten up physically. Every new injury update on the line shakes the locker room's confidence and hits everybody watching in purple and gold on the couch or in the stadium. Tell me in the comments if you would roll everybody out there even at less than 100%, or if you would hold someone back thinking about the rest of the year. And if you think all of this is already heavy, just wait until you hear one of this offense's biggest stars open up about what is really going on in Minnesota. The way Justin Jefferson opened up this week says everything about where this team is. After that 26-0 loss to Seattle, watching him walk out of the locker room in silence and only come back later to talk to the media tells you how much he is carrying. You see a guy feeling the season slip right through his fingers. When he says he does not see this stretch as a waste of his prime, but admits it is one of the most difficult seasons of his career, you can feel the tension. Young team, young quarterback, an offense stuck in neutral, and a record of 4 wins and 8 losses after a campaign with 14 wins. For a player used to dominating every single week, that hits his pride and his heart. It is not easy at all to watch that level of talent trapped in a script like this. He stressed that it is part of the game, that not every season is going to be elite, and that he needs to demand growth from the entire offense. He showed leadership, tried to pull everyone together, but deep down, there is that fatigue from repeating the same promises that never seem to turn into reality. He had already let it out after the loss to the Packers, saying he was tired of repeating the same lines and seeing nothing change. The numbers make that frustration even clearer. He has 62 catches, 799 receiving yards, and only 2 touchdowns, way below what everyone expects from him. Over the last 4 games, he has gone over 50 receiving yards just once. Against Seattle, he had 2 catches for 4 yards, the kind of stat line you expect from a role player, not a superstar. The quarterback carousel only makes it worse. With Carson Wentz, who was not even playing that well, Jefferson still had his only 2 games with 100 or more receiving yards this season. Then came the surgery. J.J. McCarthy stepped in with a completion rate below 55%, dealing with every rookie mistake you can imagine on a team under pressure. Then, Max Brosmer, an undrafted rookie, steps up and throws 4 interceptions in a single game. To be sincere with you, no wide receiver on the planet can keep up a superstar rhythm with that level of chaos under center. Constant rotation like that kills timing, drains confidence, and shatters chemistry. It is exactly the kind of thing that leaves any fan just staring at the screen in disbelief. The coordinator tweaks the game plan, the quarterback changes, the protection breaks down, and the ball simply does not get there. The defense keeps jogging back onto the field with no rest. The mood in the locker room gets heavier, and the people watching in purple and gold feel like they have seen this movie before. Even so, there is something different about how he is handling it. Jefferson has not thrown anyone under the bus, has not bailed on the group, has not turned it into a social media circus. He chose to talk about growth, about holding the bar high, about using this ugly year as part of the journey. That means a lot to everyone who truly lives Vikings football and is trying to hold on to some faith in the middle of the mess. If this connection with the quarterback finally clicks down the stretch, the narrative flips fast and the whole conversation changes. If it stays like this, every one of his press conferences turns into a live thermometer of how much patience is left in the locker room and among the Vikings Nation fan base. And the impact hits even harder when you remember that one of the most beloved players in recent franchise history had to leave Minnesota in the middle of the season just to try to rediscover himself in another uniform. And that is exactly the story coming next. It hurts a lot to see Adam Thielen standing at a podium in another uniform and talking about how tough it was to leave Minnesota. We all know he is not just a wide receiver, he is the symbol of a guy who came from nothing and became a star at home. When he says the decision to ask for his release ate at him mentally, he sounds more like a fan than a media-trained veteran. The thing is, at the start of the year, coming back to the Vikings looked like a storybook ending. Coming home, rejoining the locker room, reconnecting with a fan base that knows every step of his journey. But on the field, the plan unraveled fast. His role shrank, his snaps dropped, crucial routes shifted to other targets. At some point, either you accept becoming a background character or you try to find a place where you can still decide games. He chose to chase more playing time somewhere else, and the team honored that. Even so, you can feel in his words how heavy that decision was. Weeks of wrestling with it, long talks with his family, that feeling that this might be the last chapter of his career. He even put out a statement saying this would be his final season, then walked that back at the press conference with a bit of a nervous laugh. That is exactly how someone sounds when they are living the end of a cycle in real time. At the same time, we have to admit that on the field, his second stint with the Vikings just did not work. Low production, minimal impact, and drops that never fit the classic Thielen profile. To be honest with you, the team never really figured out how to use him. They did not commit to him as a full-on veteran difference maker, but they also did not clearly define him as a niche role player. Everything landed in no man's land and nobody walked away happy. In Pittsburgh, the story changes. He steps into an offense still looking for a solid second option with real opportunity to fight for a starting role and prove there is still gas left in the tank. He is back grinding through the playbook like a rookie, trying to build new trust even with a body that has been through a lot. It is hard not to feel a little jealous watching that energy being poured into another locker room. Emotionally, Defend the North definitely feels that punch. Seeing one of the most recognizable faces of the last decade wearing different colors and talking about a new chance hits everybody, especially because we all know he wanted that final push of his career to be at home at US Bank Stadium. This chapter leaves that strange mix of pride and frustration. Only here we look at this exit through the eyes of a fan, not just through contract details. You feel the sting of watching an icon say goodbye in a kind of quiet, awkward way in the middle of a weird season. At the same time, you understand the competitor in him who refuses to become just another name in the rotation. I want to know what you would do in his place, so talk to me in the comments, because this split feeling is as real as it gets. And the wild part is that this story does not end with the emotion. There is still the trade angle and the draft picks, and how the front office managed to turn Thielen's brief return into an even tougher pill to swallow. That piece is going to leave a lot of fans scratching their heads when they look ahead to the next draft. What really makes this whole Thielen saga even harder to stomach is how badly the trade itself has aged for Minnesota. It was not enough to watch a franchise icon leave again in the middle of the season. Now we have the final detail. The conditional pick that could have become a 6th rounder locked in as just a 7th. The condition was simple. If Thielen stayed through 10 games, the return would be a 6th round pick. If he went beyond that mark, it dropped down to a 7th. In the end, he played 11 games and then asked out. The Vikings agreed and wound up with the worst possible outcome. They barely got any real use out of the veteran, and they did not squeeze a meaningful draft return out of the deal either. His production in this stint was extremely low. He finished with 8 catches for 69 yards and no real impact in any big moment. Nothing close to justifying the price they paid a few months back. To be sincere with you, the whole move feels like a decision made in the heat of the moment, trying to slap a quick patch on the roster while the team was still dealing with suspensions and receivers learning their roles. Meanwhile, Carolina managed to move their pick position up and walk away from the table with clear value. Now Pittsburgh joins the story with a legitimate chance to use Thielen as a secondary weapon in an offense still searching for stability. It is like everybody found some kind of win in this except the Vikings. It is enough to make any fan want to pull their hair out. The Vikings Nation fan base looks at all this and wonders where the clear, cold evaluation of the big picture went. The criticism aimed at Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah does not come out of nowhere. A lot of people have called this trade a major miss. Some say, at best, it was just poorly calculated. At worst, it was a desperate swing. The thing is, there were other paths to take. Instead of shipping off draft capital, the front office could have peeled off a little cap space to grab a cheaper depth receiver and tried to develop him into a third option. A move like that would have preserved the pick and protected the cap sheet. It could have helped on special teams too. And all of that without loading the emotional weight of a hometown legend at the end of his career onto a roster already under heavy pressure. Instead, the team paid a premium in draft assets for a player who ended up almost a non-factor and still left before the season was done. Anyone who truly lives Vikings football knows the draft is a lifeline. Every round matters, especially in a conference full of young teams on the rise. When you waste a chance to bump a pick up a round because of a poorly thought-out agreement, you lose flexibility to attack roster holes down the road. Offensive line, edge rusher, secondary, they all feel it when the pick stash thins out. All you can do now is hope this trade becomes a painful lesson inside that front office. The next veteran move has to be sharper, without this mix of emotional gamble and fuzzy math. Because with the way things are trending, even the possibility of finishing the year without a single Pro Bowl representative feels like a direct consequence of this chain of decisions. And that is exactly where the next part of this breakdown goes when we look at who might still salvage at least a little pride for this season. It is wild how a bad season can even change the Pro Bowl conversation. We got used to seeing at least one Viking in the league's all-star event almost every year. Now the team is out there on social media pushing for votes for specialists, and the big question is real. Will anyone actually carry that purple and gold into the showcase this time? In the history of the franchise, that almost never happens. Across more than 60 seasons, there have been only 2 years where the team sent nobody. That was back in 1983 and then again in 2014. In the last decade, it was normal to see lists with 5, 6, sometimes 7 names. The possibility of not sending anyone in 2025 shows just how far things have fallen since that 14-win ride. On offense, everyone's eyes go straight to Justin Jefferson. In a normal year, he would be a Pro Bowl lock on name value alone. Now the stats do not back him up the same way. Fewer yards, not many touchdowns, and a long stretch without that dominant take-over-the-game performance. He can still sneak in on reputation if he catches fire with J.J. McCarthy down the stretch, but it is not guaranteed. And beyond him, it is hard to find another serious candidate. Quarterback is out of the question. The running game has been lifeless, and C.J. Ham has barely been on the field. Maybe Brian O'Neill has a tiny outside shot, but offensive linemen from losing teams almost never get the shine. On defense, the picture is similar. The strongest name right now is Eric Wilson, that blue-collar guy who is always around the football. He leads the team in tackles and stacks plays in the backfield. He forces fumbles and does the dirty work. But to voters across the league, he still does not look like a star. Dallas Turner leads the team in sacks, but he is fighting for attention against pass rushers with way bigger national profiles. Greenard, Van Ginkel, and the rest of the group fit Brian Flores' system nicely, but they do not have the kind of stat lines that pop on a ballot. That is why the specialists end up becoming the real hope. Will Reichard almost never misses. He nails long kicks, and he gives total confidence. The problem is, the offense is so bad that he does not get enough attempts and disappears in the league-wide numbers. Ryan Wright has strong averages and that ridiculous 77-yard punt, but punters only get noticed when they put together a perfect season with a good storyline. Miles Price has flashed on some returns, but he has also put some ugly mistakes on tape, and that stuff sticks. In the end, the guy with the clearest path might be the one almost nobody talks about. Andrew DePaula, the long snapper with a Pro Bowl streak and a ton of respect internally. To be sincere with you, if this team gets shut out in the voting, it will not be a shock. It will just confirm how this season has flattened the individual shine of almost the entire roster. And that picture also reflects the future. A team that once packed the Pro Bowl now leans on its long snapper just to avoid a zero. It makes it painfully obvious that the rebuild runs deeper than it looks, and that bad roster decisions come back to bite even in the award conversations. From that angle, you can line up everything we have talked about and really think through what kind of answer this fan base of Vikings supporters spread everywhere still expects from this team. When you put it all together, you can see this season hits different. An offensive line dealing with injuries, a frustrated star, a hometown hero walking out the door, a front office tangled up in a bad trade, and even the Pro Bowl spot up in the air. It is a heavy load for any fan base, especially for people who grew up believing in this purple and gold. At the same time, these are the moments when a team's character really shows. There is still a chance to use all this chaos as the start of a turnaround, not as the end of the story. So drop your thoughts in the comments, because this space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!